Okay, you're live.
Hi everybody, it's Sonia here with Simply Events, and we have a special guest here. Well, we have many special guests. You have all of your event coordinators in one area, as well as a Johnny with Simply Event Rentals, and a special guest, David Alvarez with DCA Media Consulting. And we're kind of Facebook worlds about simple things you can do on Facebook to increase your business, increase your network, all that kind of stuff that seems to be baffling nowadays. So I'm going to stop talking because we only have about 30 minutes, and I'm going to go right over to David. But we'll have plenty of questions, and you guys can chime in on the Facebook webs with your questions, and we'll make sure they get answered as well. So here's David.
All right, thanks guys for having me. I really do appreciate it. So let's jump right into it, kind of the newest things that are going on. So are you guys familiar with what's going on with organic reach and everything that's been happening with Facebook and everything kind of like that? So organic reach is at its absolute lowest ever. We're talking that you get the smallest percentage of your followers actually seeing your posts or your content than there ever has been before, based on everything that's been going on with Facebook, with the Russia, and all that kind of stuff. So they were really trying to clean up their act, and what they decided to do was to change how the newsfeed functions. So it wants people to stay on Facebook, because a lot of people started to leave Facebook and they don't want people to leave, so they want you to stay. So how are they going to do that? They're going to serve you content that you like and engage with. So that's great, right? You get to see more of your friends, your family, all that kind of stuff. But what's not great is for businesses and business pages, because what happened is it's not going to serve that content as much anymore, because it doesn't want people to just get bombarded with businesses and everything like that. So the only way that your content is going to be seen by your core followers right now is if they actually regularly engage with your content or set up notifications to get with it. So for example, there is a client that I work with that they have about 14,000, 15,000 followers. On average, on even a decent post, they reach about anywhere from 500 to 900 people.
Wow.
That's it. Like, that is, and if it's a really good post and it starts getting some engagements from shares, maybe it'll go up to 1,500. But 1,500 out of 14,000 is not a lot. I can't do math that quick, but that's not a great percentage. It's still a good amount of people, but it's not what you used to get, right? So the way that, especially on Facebook, it's working is basically it's pay to play, right? So if you really want to reach as many people as you can, you have to pay. So I try to tell people now that you have to start to incorporate at least some paid traffic into it. So that either means boosting some of your more popular posts, getting deeper into using ads, whatever you can to just put some money behind it, even if it's a couple bucks a day, right? I always say like $5 a day is such an easy thing to start with. Like, that's one less coffee you have during the day, right? That's a Starbucks coffee, and you just put that so it can get in front of as many people as possible. And once you start getting more engagement, more content, you'll notice that you'll start getting more followers, you'll start getting more engagement, and then you can start really playing around with the ads. So that's number one. I think right now in social media marketing, you have to put some money into it. There's just absolutely no doubt about it. Now, when you talk about other places like Instagram, Twitter, Snapchat, they do have the ads behind it, but I think those still have some organic reach, especially on Instagram. You can still use the hashtag system, you can use the discovery, but there's a lot of heavy lifting behind it. So to get the most out of these sites, like a Twitter or an Instagram or even a Snapchat, it takes a lot of work, right? I'm sure you guys are on there, you use it for your personal and you use it for business. It takes a lot of work, because in order to gain followers organically, you still have to put in the work. You have to content with people, interact, engage, like genuinely engage, right? Not just like bots that probably you run into a lot that just leave like a random thumb or a very generic kind of comment on those. You can snip those out really quick. Those aren't gonna fly. Like, it just doesn't work anymore. So you really have to create that engagement. But it takes time. So, yeah.
Questions.
Yeah, go ahead.
On average, what's the number you would say to post on those socials, like daily and even weekly?
I mean, if you could do, it depends. So a lot of it depends on your actual audience, right? Some people have success with once a day. Some people have success with like 3 or 4 times a week. It really just depends on your audience. You have to feel them out what they like. Now, there's an argument for like, oh yeah, every day so you stay relevant, but there's also an argument that a lot of it's not gonna reach people. It's just not getting the reach, so you're kind of wasting your time on maybe spending all this time trying to figure out what can I post every day. Maybe it's not great. Instead of maybe let's come up with a couple good posts a week that are really solid. That way we can drive the engagement and it'll naturally just get further. So it really depends on how your audience reacts. If you notice that you have strong numbers every day from posting like once a day or twice a day, you go with it. If you notice that sometimes maybe on average, maybe one post gets some good engagement and then the others are kind of, whatever, maybe think about, rethink about your strategy and think about what are the posts that people like and get the most engagement, and focus on those. Because what's gonna happen is you guys are gonna spend all this time creating this content and then no one sees it, right? So it really depends on your audience. Sometimes once a day is always like a good baseline, but the way that the algorithm works now, it's so hard to say like, it was so easy back in the day, like to just say, yeah, you just post at this time and this time has the best engagement, right? And you post this time, how many times? There was actually one of the sites that I use for like scheduling is Buffer. They have a great blog and they actually talked about how they scaled back their posting and how much better it did for their content, because they were posting like 2 or 3 times a day, and then they brought it back down to maybe like once a day or once every 2 days, and they actually noticed that their engagement went up because you're not bombarding people too much with it. So like they care more, right? So what happens is you'll see a lot of people, and I see it all the time, that they get like really busy and they'll start just posting stuff like from 5 o'clock to 7 o'clock, like boom, 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 like 3 or 4 things. What happens is you're actually hurting yourself. So that first thing you posted at 5 o'clock is going to get lost in the shuffle of the next one that you post and the next one after that. So you kind of have to like space it out. Let's say if you did like, let's say you did 2 posts a day, right? 1 in the morning, 1 in the afternoon. You do some experimenting. You figure out, all right, I'm going to post maybe for the first week around 10 o'clock, right? People are like work, they're starting to get bored. And I'm going to post one at like 2, 3 o'clock where people are like getting coffee break, need a break, and see what times your engagement is better. And you can see all that through Facebook, through Instagram. You can see all those numbers and kind of come up with a baseline of, all right, these are my 2 times that have great engagement. Or maybe it's just 1. Maybe your 3 o'clock is the one that really just does well. You just focus on that time. It just takes some experimenting. No audience is the same.
And you can find that through your different pages, insights,
Yep.
to know when you should be posting during your most trafficked hours.
Exactly.
And you can even select your content properly, that extra content towards your following.
Exactly. So use the numbers, right? So a lot of people kind of, they hope for these generalities of like, all right, when's the best time to post? Well, you have to do it a couple times and look at the numbers, because not everyone's going to be the same. Maybe my audience is more of an afternoon, maybe yours is a morning. It all depends. We're all going after kind of the same people, but we're not. It's different groups and they have different schedules, right? So if I were trying to market something that's for kids, I'm not doing it during school hours because they're probably not going to be on, their phone. Well, they're not supposed to be, but they're probably not going to be on there more, right? So even for one of the ones that I manage, it is a younger crowd. So usually the later hours, 7, 8, 9 o'clock is like prime time, because that's when they're on their phone. That's not what you would usually think, right? You think maybe people are going to be on there, but you kind of have to think outside the box, or just go by your numbers. Just don't think like, well, I think people go on this time, because the numbers are there. You don't need to guess anymore of like when your audience is on there. So that's what you really need to do, but it takes some time. If you're just starting out, you really want to figure it out, do post at different times, all these different times, and kind of play with it and see, all right, this is where our audience likes to be at. This is where they like to access the most, and you just focus on that. Does that make sense?
It does.
So, and then when it comes to the actual content, it really depends on, what you guys are trying to achieve. So for you guys, it's a little bit different, right? So you do the events. So you're trying to get the word out about the events and also have some maybe fun and creative kind of stuff. So you really have to play around with what kind of content works, what do people want to see, what do they want to keep updated, but also kind of throw in there that you have these events, because you don't want to just keep doing like, hey, there's an event Saturday, next day, hey, there's an event Saturday, hey, there's an event Saturday. Like, you're just going to keep bombarding them with the same message over and over again. You have to kind of switch it up, but also get in there what you're trying to get across, right? Because the whole point of doing this is you want people to come to the events, right? Or even if you're a business, you want customers, but you have to make sure that you're giving them something else. And I think you guys do a great job of posting kind of separate things, right, that may have nothing to do with anything, kind of just a current, like,
Yeah.
right? Is that kind of what you're going for?
Our most popular posts, and Gabby can tell you this too, are organic shares of things going on from other news sources that are covering local restaurant openings, other local events, charities doing local events. So our kind of tell me something good sections and organic shares of things going on actually have more play than any other post that we do besides highlighting employee highlights here. People love to know who we are and what each person does here. So that's what we do as far as extra content, kind of showing who we are and what's going on around town, because we're an event company.
Right, and the personal touch is great because people really, you know, just to be a blank company and you don't see anyone behind it, it's kind of boring, and people like to know who's behind it, because at the end of the day, right, it's people talking to people. Whether you're a business, you can sneeze, it's okay. You know, it's person to person, whether you're a business or not. So at the end of the day, you still want to know who's behind the person, whether it's simply events or the people that work behind it. It's still personal. So you can still have kind of normal conversations, even though you guys are a company. You can still act normal, and I think that's great, especially, you know, highlighting things that are local in the community. Obviously, because you guys are local in the community, it's big because it could just drive more engagement, right? Because that's also more true. So the more things you start posting, that's maybe, you know, that is not necessarily toward your business, but people like and engage, it's going to tell Facebook, hey, this person likes the content from Simply Events. I'm going to start serving it more. So that when you finally do those posts, hey, we have an event on Saturday, there's more of a guarantee they're going to see it because they've already engaged with it.
And instead of a like, you now have a follower,
right,
which I feel is important to talk about too.
Yes. So you could have, like I said, you could have 14,000 likes and only reach so many people, but you could have followers. So necessarily, they don't like your page, but they follow it, so they'll get updates on your page. Both are very powerful. You just need to make sure that people are engaging. That is the number one thing when it comes to organic reach now. If they're not engaging with it, or they tell Facebook physically, I want notifications from this page, it's not going to get far. Now you could do that. You could do that for your loyal group. Say, listen, if you want to stay updated with everything, go to our page and put view first. There's an option in Facebook that you can actually view this person's content first. So you can do for your diehards, they want to make sure they see it, it'll always be there. It takes literally 2 seconds. They go to your profile page, 3 dots, view content first, and they'll always see it. Kind of like how on, you know, like on YouTube when you subscribe, you can do the bell, so that not only are you subscribed to that content, you'll get a notification when new things come out. So that's something you can explore. Yeah.
Tell me, bro.
Yeah.
That was like a big campaign they did.
Exactly. So you can do that kind of stuff. It's just these little things that you start to implement just to make sure that your content's being served. Because again, it's so hard to try and get in front of it. It's either you're going to do this kind of work in the back end, or you're just going to pay. Like, you just have to pay to get in front of it. Because that's the whole point of them creating all these social networks for free, right? They collected all of our data, everything. They know us better than we know ourselves, so that marketers can get stuff to you. And they want these ads to be relevant to you, so you stay on and not get annoyed, right? Because if you just get bombarded with ads that you don't care about, you're going to leave naturally. So they want to make sure that these ads are very specific to the person that they're reaching, so that they're not so annoyed. I mean, how many people have bought something from an ad on social media? Yeah. Okay. Yeah, guilty. I think I did the other day. So it's. I don't mind getting the ads if it's something I'm interested in. I think most people would agree.
I like my ads on Facebook. Sometimes I watch those more than other people's content.
Yeah.
Like my friends and family.
Well, because
cool.
it's so specific to you, right?
Yeah,
It's crazy. So like there's good and bad, right? So on a bigger level, it's bad because you're getting sucked into this bubble of like, this is what I like and nothing else different. That's why they got in trouble.
Yeah.
So what happens is with all this fake news and everything, they found these little bubbles, and so you weren't seeing anything different. So like if you had this one mindset, that was all you're gonna see. You'd never see another side. And that's where things got a little bit iffy. But it's, yeah. So you get sucked into this bubble, right?
Yeah.
Like I like what I like, Facebook knows it, and it's just gonna keep showing me the same thing over and over again, but you never find anything new, right? And that's the beauty of these sites. You can find new stuff.
You know, we talk about something interesting sometimes about the importance when you share something of staying inside a platform, because that platform doesn't like you to go to another platform.
Right.
Maybe talk about that a little bit, because I feel that was a game changer for us to pay attention to making sure we're sharing inside into your Facebook platform, into your Instagram platform.
Right, so everything you do should be specific to your network that you're using, right? So the first thing that, it's really not a problem now, people got much better at it, but people used to make videos and then put them on YouTube and then share the YouTube link on Facebook. And Facebook doesn't like that, because it's taking them off of Facebook going to YouTube. So guess what? Your engagement and your reach will go down. So what you have to do is, if you're going to have a video on Facebook, you upload it directly to Facebook, right? And if you're going to have it on Instagram, or you're going to try like Instagram TV, it needs to go directly to there. And it needs to fit that format, right? Because when you're talking about an Instagram video next to a Facebook video can be as long as you want. Instagram, you have a minute, right? So either you're going to make that video a minute to be universal, or you're going to have to make different content for each one. Even if you are doing like Facebook and Instagram, it's two different audiences, two different styles, because on Instagram, stories do so much better.
Yeah.
So to convert a regular video like this and put it into stories, if you don't have like video editing software, it's a pain, and it just doesn't look right.
That's what we do for the Shabbies. Like, we'll do our live video on Facebook, but then when like Gabby does for like the stories one, for each one, we have to do it separately, because people want either like, there's different options on Instagram. You can throw boomerangs in there, and all that's in your story, and so it's like you kind of create literally a story versus just one video flowing, which won't work.
Exactly. So it's again, it's so like labor intensive. Like people get, that's why people get
Instagram
frustrated.
especially nowadays.
It's very
It's so different from just photos, which everybody thinks. Now they want you to tell this personal story.
And they've got music on there now too. You can
Complicated.
put background music on everything.
But it's a great thing, because now
polls.
the other good thing about these though is, as much as it is labor intensive, you don't need crazy software, equipment, or anything to make great content.
Everything in the app.
Everything is there for you. It's just that you're making it specific for each one. So it takes a little bit of work, but you don't have to, spend money on extra stuff, because all the tools are there. Even in Facebook, I mean, you can add captions, you can trim stuff. Like, everything is built in. You don't have to have like traditional, like I do videos, so I edit like on
Photoshop.
Premiere, Photoshop, do all this stuff. You don't have to really do that anymore to make great content. And the good thing, especially like with Instagram and stories now, that you can share them back and forth, right?
Yeah.
So the good thing is, now that Instagram, it was probably pretty recent that you can share your story straight from Instagram backwards to Facebook, which was great, which they needed it, because when Facebook stories came out, no one was looking at it.
Yeah.
Like, it just wasn't, like, why am I gonna do one in Instagram and then I have to like save it and then put it, it was dumb. It was dumb. So now that they have it backwards compatible, that like if you do it on Instagram naturally, because that's where you're gonna do it, now you can share it directly to Facebook stories. And Facebook stories now has started to go up a little bit, because now it's much easier, because they realize, well, people are doing it on Instagram and we want them to watch it on Facebook, let's just share it directly anyway. So it's just doing, that's just one less piece of content that you have to make, because now you can share them between.
And that's something we don't do. Do you encourage that? You know how you can post on Instagram and say share on Facebook as well?
If it's like, let's say it's like a generic graphic, there's nothing wrong with that, right? So I'll do it. Like if it's something like a photo that's pretty generic, just to save time, I'll just share. I usually I like Instagram, so I start Instagram first and then share it to Facebook. But you still have to go back and change some things, because for instance, I shared a photo yesterday that I did with Boys and Girls Go to Tampa. I was at one of their openings taking photos and video. So on Instagram, I tag them by their handle and it'll share it to Facebook. But I still have to go to Facebook and tag them separately, because the ad is not there.
Yeah.
So there's still some work behind it. It's much quicker than taking that photo, rewriting the caption, and then posting it. It just literally post it to Instagram, it'll share it to Facebook, go to Facebook, edit, and then do it that way. So it's not perfect, because it's, again, you still have to do it specific to those, because I'm adding hashtags on Instagram, which on Facebook
That's
is
what I was
pretty
going to ask you. Do you think they're as effective on Facebook as they are on Instagram? I know
No.
like hashtags are like a thing for Instagram.
Yeah, for Facebook, like, you can use them.
But
I don't think
really go
Facebook
anywhere.
searches
There's-
is so well that you don't even need a hashtag.
Yeah.
Like, you could just look up a keyword, period, and
Yeah.
it'll find it in a post. Like, you don't even need to use the hashtag.
That's true.
Like, their search function is crazy. Like, I don't think people realize what you can really search in there. It's insane. Like, they have
Almost
everything.
like Google.
Yeah.
It is. It's Google for all this data, anything that you've possibly searched or anyone has mentioned or anything. So if you're looking for, the name of an event that you guys just did, you could just type that in, and you could probably find any posts that are public, and you can use that. So another great thing that using those hashtags and search function is more content that's user generated, right?
True.
So I like to use that a lot for some businesses, because if it's an experience-based business, you want to share people's experiences and use their photos. So there's a couple good things with that, right? It's more genuine because it's someone else's content, right? And it's showing them too. You don't have to generate all this content now.
Right.
So you can go out and find these experiences. So let's say you're at an event and you have a hashtag for the event, or if it's at a certain location, what I would do either during that event or after it is I would search that location on Instagram, see if anyone posted using that location, search if anyone used a certain hashtag, search it on Facebook if anyone checked into that area, and if any of that, it has to be public, right? So their profiles have to be public and their posts have to be public. But you can now see that, and you can just shoot them, hey, can we use this? Can we repost this? More often than not, if it's public, they don't care. They want to get a shout out anyway. So you can kind of create this kind of little micro community of content generators for you. So that's what we do. So for like one of the places I work for is like a trampoline park. So we say if you want to get featured, tag us or put the location. And more often than not, people do, because these kids, they want to show off all these crazy tricks they do. So what we're doing is you're starting to see people having fun, all these kids doing all this crazy stuff, and it correlates more with the kids because they can relate more with it, and it's more content that we don't have to make. Because you can't be there all the time kind of creating this content. You never know what's cool, what's not. So you can have this content creators, and all you're doing is just giving them a shout out, and they love it because then they share it off with their friends. Because it's so weird. There's still that kind of like cool factor of being shouted out by like a business, right?
Yeah.
Isn't it? Like the other day, I was sitting on the couch and like going through Instagram, and I was like, oh yes, and my wife's like, what is wrong with you? I'm like, I just got followed by Oxford Exchange. I love Oxford Exchange. I'm like, they're following me.
I have those moments all the time.
Yeah, and I'm like, this is so stupid. It's like literally, I don't know why, but I was like, I'll take it. I was like so excited.
Oxford Exchange is now following me.
Yeah.
Got it.
Shout out Oxford Exchange. Don't unfollow me now. Yeah, but it's just it's that cool little thing, and that's still the charm behind like using social media for that stuff, especially with business, to kind of give those shout out to customers.
And to be
and
social.
people.
I think people forget the importance
No.
of being social.
What-
We love silly gifs here. We'll gif our pants off on stuff. We'll have a
A
gif
full
off.
conversation, like not
amongst
even
three of
really
us.
typing. We're just
Just sending
talking.
Gif off on our Facebook. Yeah.
But that's fun though, because
Yeah.
it creates that kind of thing, and you can get people involved in that. I've seen people do like, they'll do like
Your best taco gifs.
yeah.
Talk about it.
I think you just made something right there.
It's
But-
happening.
Yeah.
Okay.
Write that down.
Yeah. Talk about it. Post coming soon.
Yeah, but that kind of stuff is great because you're going to create that engagement. And it's just fun and it's light, and you get people involved. That's the number one thing: getting people involved and getting social. Because what happened is, even as of like a year ago or maybe a year and a half ago, it was just so bad. It was just so spammy. It was just like people were like, "This is what I'm selling. Like buy my thing, buy my thing, buy my
Yeah.
thing. Come to my thing, come to my thing, come to my thing." There was no engagement, no nothing, and people would start to leave because I don't want to get harassed constantly to just buy something or do something. Like I don't want to see an ad, even if it's not a paid sponsored ad. I'm just seeing these ads over and over again. So I went on a purge myself. Like I just started unfollowing a bunch of pages or even like people, because what happened is even personal people would just share nothing but their business, and I'm like, I don't want to see this, so I just turned them off. So now I think Facebook realized it, and I think people were starting to realize, especially business starting to realize it, that you have to do a little bit extra. You can't just do, this is my post, this is my post, this is my thing. I would save that for your promoted post if you're going to put some money behind it, because now you're putting money behind it, and that's the real whole purpose of it. So that's different, but at least when you start getting into the advertising and going into the targeting, which we've talked about, at least it's getting to the right people, so that it's okay if you're doing that, because that's the purpose of it.
And don't guess who your people are. And I know Kevin has a question. We used to do this. Don't guess who your people
Nope.
are. That's what insights are for. Just side note.
Yeah, you can easily find out who your followers are and look at their habits, right? So like she mentioned, there's something on the business side of Facebook, so business.facebook.com, called Audience Insights, that you can look at your followers, and it'll tell you things like the age, the gender, the pages they like. So you can really start to understand who your follower and who your base is. And the good thing about that is you can use that to your advantage when you create content later on. So you know that your audience base really likes maybe these couple pages or these couple things, you can do things around that to create content so that it'll gain interest from them. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So it's kind of like a psychology game. So all this data that you can come back, you really have to think about, right?
Cheat sheet.
Yeah, exactly, a cheat sheet, right? So the whole point of this is to make your life easier, right? So you do a little bit of work up front, finding out what works for people, but it'll make your life so much easier because now you already know what's going to work. So you just have to go through it, understand that person, and it's only going to serve them better because you're doing them a favor because you're sharing content that they're going to like.
You mentioned Facebook being like really good as far as like searching for things. What do you think is the best or like probably the easiest way to get in touch with something either specifically for an area or like specifically for like a business that you're trying to like just like look up in that area, you know what I mean? So like say if we're doing something in like South Florida, how would be the best way to see like everyone over there that has to do with what I'm looking for?
I think if you do a search on Facebook or Instagram, you'll probably get great results. So if you're just trying to find businesses that are like that, you can find them through both of them. Facebook probably will be a little bit more because it can go through the pages, it can go through people, it can go by location. So any kind of information you want to do that and scout from there. But what would be something like you're trying to look for when you're searching?
So we have shows coming up in Southwest Florida. We're doing our Shabby Chic market in Fort Myers. So normally our process for that is we reach out to different, like group wise, we look for like vendor groups down there or like antique or shabby vendor groups or even antique stores and vintage stores and stuff like that. So looking for those types of businesses and those types of people that we would want at that show down there. Like,
I got you.
Really.
Yeah, I mean, Facebook would be a great place to start because you can just look up like antique and Tampa, and I'm sure a bunch of pages would pop up, or even posts. Because remember, some of those people probably don't even have a business page. It could just be individuals. So it'd be nice that you could just find them and then you just reach out to them directly. That's the other great thing about these networks is ultimately is the connection that you can make with someone instantaneously, right? You can shoot them a message, you can shoot them a DM, write a comment to them. So that would be a powerful. I would probably start on Facebook and then you can go to Instagram because you could still look up hashtags. Maybe for antique or whatever, but remember, you're going to get, when you use the hashtag on Instagram, you're going to get general. Yeah, you're not going to get necessarily
Like
location.
most relevant, yeah.
So unless you look at like antique Tampa, which very specific. Yeah.
What is, like, how did the boosted post work, and how does the amount of money that you put on it affect your page reach?
So a boost post is the idea of like, you're telling Facebook, I want to reach either my followers and my friends, or a specific targeted audience that you can make based on interest, and I want it to go to them. So you pay them money, and that's what they're going to do. They're going to find people that meet that quota and serve them that content. So your question on money depends on how big your audience is, right? So Facebook advertising in general is still cheaper than any other advertising. It used to be much cheaper. Like you could reach, like 10,000 people for like $5 to $10, right? Because it wasn't still that prevalent. Now it's so competitive that the rate has gone up. So $5 may not get you that far. $10, like anywhere like that. Usually for a local, if you're really kind of go after a very specific location, like $100 to like 50 could get you a few thousand people, which is a few thousand people that you weren't going to reach before. So the more money you spend, the more people you're going to reach. But there's a lot of factors that go into it because what happens is a lot of people spend money on Facebook for advertising and maybe they don't target anyone or kind of just say, all right, just do it, let Facebook do whatever, and nothing happens. They're like, oh, this stuff doesn't work. It does work.
Go back and check on it constantly, every couple days at least,
Right.
to see what is actually generating and working.
And there's a lot of factors that go into it because let's say you do a post and you're serving it to a certain audience, and that audience maybe just doesn't react to it. You have to change the content. It's not Facebook's fault. They're just not reacting to it.
Right.
You just have to change the content.
Do you have to like outbid your competitors and put more money on it if you want to be?
You could. I mean, if you really want to get granular, so you couldn't do it as a boosted post. Boosted post is very generic. It's like really much like, this is my post. This is who I want it to reach. This is the location. Here's my money. Take it. If you wanted to get like really granular, you have to go like an ads manager, and you can actually set a custom bid. So you tell Facebook, listen, I'm willing to spend X amount for one person to view this. So you can get really competitive, but you can get really expensive. So their automatic bidding is pretty good, but if you're in a very competitive space, you can absolutely try to outbid people. You just have to have the money and willing to spend it.
Gotcha.
That gets into things of like how much, like what's the lifetime value of your customer, right? So let's say you have a customer, let's say they buy something and their lifetime value is $3,000, am I willing to spend $100 on that person? Yeah, because they're going to spend lifetime value $3,000.
Right.
So it comes into that. It really just comes down to how much is this person worth for you, and how aggressive do you want to get?
Here's a great question from one of our followers. This is from Ben. Used to work with the daytime show at WFLA. So shout out daytime. What is the best way to optimize your business Facebook page so it shows up in Facebook search?
Well, it's not kind of like Google, right? So Google has like AdWords that you can obviously get in front of everyone else. Facebook's a little bit different. So I think I know they base it on basically if you have a good following, you'll probably show up first in the searches. And if you have great engagement, because again, Facebook is all about serving people that are, yes, they want to show people stuff that's relevant. So if we have, let's say we both have the same product, we have the same page, right? You have 1,000 followers, I have 10,000, I'm probably going to show up first, right? So for that, what you would have to do is make sure that your followers are up, your engagement is up, everything is up before you just start saying, all right, I want to show up in the search. If I'm starting from zero, it's going to be tough. You have to use some paid traffic to make sure that you get your followers up, your engagement up, so you become more relevant, so Facebook will then start feeding it on there. Or you got to just get creative if it's something really specific. Again, if it's like, I want to look up, I don't know, a shoe store in Tampa, it's going to be a lot they're going to show up. But if you have something that's very specific, you can get in front of it just because you're niche. You just got to be very descriptive of what you're selling or what your business page is about.
So 2 questions to piggyback off this one. Can you put keywords in your description, kind of like an SEO thing, what we do on
Absolutely.
web pages?
Remember, because Facebook, when you search a term, it's going to try and find it. So you could. Now, I have yet to find actual proof that's like Google that the more keywords you have, the better you're going to go in.
Right.
But most certainly it will, because again, when you search a term in Facebook, it's going to look for that term across pages and posts and everything. So.
Does it search it in the summary of your business, like your description of your business, or just in the post?
It'll do both.
Right.
It'll do both. But if you, so like for that question, so let's say you're trying to get in a lot of searches for a certain topic. We'll use shoes again, right? It's probably a bad example. But let's say the word shoes.
Video, and you do video, so this is a great
Perfect.
comparison.
Okay. So Tampa, let's say he's trying to get video clients in Tampa, right? So I'll make sure that my business page has that everywhere in there. But I'm gonna make sure a lot of my post features video and Tampa in it somewhere,
Right.
because that's gonna show up in
Recent
posts.
search engine.
Right. So you want to make sure you're including that somewhere in there. Whether you're tagging your location, actually put in Tampa. You want to make sure that you're constantly mentioning video.
The location
Yep.
of all your shabbies.
Right.
Chapel, Tampa.
Right.
Number
So
one.
it's those little things you want to make sure you're sliding them in there, just because it'll show up in the search.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
And then the second part is, I know a while back you had to kind of activate video, a basic post, a carousel post. Like there was so many different posts that you had to activate to kind of fall into a higher algorithm for your page to be complete.
Right.
Is that still the case? Should you still have all those things active in different posts?
I think you could, because here's the thing with those different posts. Those are more of like testing of like what works better, right? So hands down, video always is still dominant across, like especially Facebook. Like it's just always dominant. Facebook rather serve video more than anything else. When you talk about carousels and everything like that, those are effective too. It's also nice to have those as just something different, because people will engage anything that they can kind of engage with, right? Carousels are nice because they kind of just swipe through. And what happens is now that counts as engagement, whether they like it or not. Because what Facebook notices, they're engaging with the post. They're not just going right past it.
Right.
So it still counts as engagement.
Clicking.
Yeah, you're still going through it. So much so that they added, I guess earlier this year or somewhere around there, on the ad side, that you can target people who have engaged with your business page at all. That means like your page, looked at your page, or looked at one of your posts and engaged with it. They don't even have to like your page, as long as they engage with it. So that's why it's so important to make this stuff to engage. So to answer your question, test those out, see which one works. It's because if you're just gonna do, let's say you don't want to do a video, you want to do photos. I would do carousel, because now you could just do a bunch. You know, it's more fun that way. It's kind of to scroll through it. So you just got to get a little bit creative. All the tools are there. They made them for a reason, right? They want you to use them because they know that the more interesting and more creative you can get with their tool, the better it's going to be.
So we have about 5 more minutes left. If there's any questions from staff or anyone who would like to ask a question,
Sure.
you know, definitely get it in. Do you guys have any questions, interstaff here?
Yeah.
Mine were originally addressed.
How do you find a good balance between looking, like if you want to do organic posts, then you also want to do some serious posts? How do you prevent yourself from looking either too unprofessional or too kind of uptight? Like how do you balance those two?
Well, I think you everyone has a general tone when it comes to their page, right? Like if you're more fun, usually your business posts and your not business posts are kind of fun, right? So your best bet is probably like 50-50. Try and see like what works best. So you don't, obviously you can't be like super serious on one and then be completely serious. Like it just doesn't fit. You still have to have something cohesive when it comes to all your posts. So luckily for you guys, you know, you're in a fun kind of environment, you're in a fun business. So all your posts, whether they're promotional, strictly promotional, you can still have fun with them and also fit the personality of everyone here and have some fun posts. So you can still do 50-50, but just make sure it's not too much of one, right? You don't want all silly and then finally you just become serious too, because people are like, this is weird, you know what I mean? So you kind of have to make it fit. It's a tough balance because I've seen people go like completely off the wall and then like super serious and you're just like, what is this? Which is fake now, right? Which is the real one now? Is this person really like this or are they really like this?
I think a great start is acknowledging real news. You know, holidays, funny weather memes, stuff like that to gauge, to see if your audience is even going to go for that type of stuff, and then you can go a little bit further.
Right, and you don't have to go crazy. It's like little things like that, or even just updates on the local community. Because remember, a lot of these pages, if you're local in the community, like you should update people what's going on in the community, whether it has to do with your business or not. Just because people want to know, you know, what's going on. I thought the coolest thing that a lot of people did was during the last big storm. A lot of people were posting about shelters and stuff like that, which it doesn't seem like it's a big deal, but it very much is because you stopped your business and you were just showing that because some people may have not seen the updates and they see your post and they're getting the information. It's kind of that idea of not only are you a business, but you're local, so you want to make sure people, you know, you update people with local things and be important because they're going to see your post at some point, so you want to make sure they know that you're local and that you care about them and you want to engage. Because remember, this is all relationship based. So the more engagement you get from people, the more relationship that you're going to have with them. So if we had a relationship, right, not everything is not always going to be business, right? Like we don't always talk about business stuff. We talk about other stuff. Like
sushi burritos is a big topic.
Sushi burritos, yes, there was. It was good. But like, you know, that kind of stuff. It's like a normal relationship. So what's the difference between this relationship and the one I have with someone on the phone? There's really not that much, aside from just the face-to-face. So we're going to talk business, but we're also going to talk about other stuff that's pertinent to us. So kind of use that idea behind it.
Yeah, that's something we learned. Our post used to be very like this, and
Rigid.
then she was like, relax, and then we were able to get like
It's
a lot more
look, the days of being like so like formal, like, you know, are done, right? So like my biggest pet peeve that people do is like they'll take their like TV commercial and put it on there, right? Or do something like that. The example is like, well, this is what I know, this is how I know how to do it, so I'm just going to put it to here. But you can't do that, right? A TV commercial on a Facebook ad is not going to work. It just doesn't translate. It's different audience, different medium, right? So you want to make sure that that people you know, interact with you in how they're comfortable now. So I tell a lot of people now, one of the biggest keys that I try to do if they're trying to get new customers, make it easy for them to contact you and use like Messenger or DM or comments, because that's how people like to think. Because if people like, I want to put it on there my phone number, I'm like, they're not going to call you. It wasn't the last time you picked up the phone. Call someone.
You can change your call to action button to send message. Now the key to changing that is making sure you're checking those messages when they come in.
Yes. Yes. Check them.
Autoresponders too. Autoresponders.
Autoresponder for sure. I mean, listen, Facebook made it so easy with autoresponder that you could put in preset questions.
6 of them.
Yeah. So then that way, when they send you a message, if you can't get back to it, at least you know what they're looking for, and you can answer them when you get back, and you know he's set. But it's that ease of communication. But that's specific to here. But people still don't get that. They're like, oh, call my location. Some people will call. Some people are old school. They want to talk to someone. What I've noticed is people have no problem sending you a message directly, and no one's going to see it. Or people just comment, like publicly, a question. without regard. Like they just do it.
That just happened to me.
See? And
Sounds
it's crazy, right?
Wow.
I was
Okay.
gonna say call me, but then in my post, my name and my number was right there. So I was
We just
Just
talked
respond.
about this.
Yeah.
People don't read. A graphic speaks 1,000 words.
Yeah.
Remember that
Yeah.
too.
Yeah.
It's very helpful being able to reach businesses directly like that too, because like sometimes we'll call people for like a week straight, and then
Yeah.
if we just simply message them on Facebook, we'll get an answer by like the end of the day from like who exactly we need to talk to, what exactly needs to be done. I like filled a whole event through like Facebook. Like,
Can't reach Duke Energy? Hit them on Twitter. They'll get back to you in 10 minutes.
Right. Exactly. You know why? Because now it's public.
Yeah.
And everyone's gonna see that, and they don't
So-
like that.
We have a really good question again from Ben about like search engines.
Okay.
How does Facebook rank as far as attracting new business? Has it become a more viable search platform for people looking for goods and services? And does your Facebook activity help in SEO for Google and et cetera?
It does. It actually does, because I know, like, if you were to like search my business, like, I'm pretty sure my business page may show up before even my website. Like,
Your Facebook,
Your
ours does
Facebook,
too.
Yeah, much better SEO.
because it's again based off like the keywords, the content, right? I'm posting more of using that than necessarily optimizing my website, which I think everyone should. But it's also kind of tough, that kind of stuff. Like there really is a lot of things that you need to get into. For me, I'm more social media oriented, so that's probably why it shows up more, but it most definitely will. So that's why a business page, I tell people, it's like, it's just as important as your website. Because
More, yeah.
more often than not, people will probably find you on there than your website directly. Because if you have a small mom and pop business, your website may not have that kind of backing power, but Facebook will, because Facebook itself is such a big site, and then you're in there. So it'll show up probably before even your website. Your website could be like on page 2 or 3, but your business page could be on 1.
So it's important, to just keep your description updated across the board on about your business,
Yep.
that it's the same on all of these different platforms.
And so much so now that Facebook for Business is like messaging people. I don't know if you've gotten it, but I know a bunch of people have gotten it. Like, we're gonna change your template because we're gonna make it better for you. Because what they want to do is they want to make sure that whatever your business is, they have a business page theme or setup that is directly for that, so people can see your services, your costs, what you're selling. I mean, like, even on Instagram, if let's say I was selling T-shirts, I could sell T-shirts on Instagram without even a website, because you could sell directly from there. Because you could take a picture of it. There's a little dot. You press on it. Here's the money. Press it. Buy it. Done. You don't even really need the website. That's how they're getting so powerful, because they want you to stay on
All
their
in
server.
their servers.
Exactly.
So we are really close on time. I just wanted to give a shout out to David again with DCA Media Consulting. So David, I met at the Wesley Chapel Chamber a little over a year ago, probably a year and a half ago. And we were in, at the time, Social Media Hell. This was before the age of Gabby and the marketing coordinator. And we were trying to keep track of everything, so he created our basic schedule and how to do like our little click interests that we do, where you see our event countdowns and the importance of having a graphic so people know that they can follow your newsletter, that they can follow your Instagram. So he does so many different things. If you need help with social media, I suggest reaching out to him, sending him a message on Facebook, because he is very social.
Yeah. Try.
And
try.
we're also here. A lot of us, we've learned from experience of what not to do, and also a little bit of help on the side. So we appreciate you helping us.
Oh no, please! You guys are fantastic. Thanks for having me. I really do appreciate it. And you already know, I love to just talk about this stuff. So
I told them that. It's like, David can talk. Don't worry.
I could definitely talk so
much.
much so. That's why I'm excited. Like I'm gonna be making a hopefully soon, when I between work and a baby and everything else. Thank you. A membership site that basically I could do these kind of like micro training, have these videos all set up, so no matter what business you're in or everything, all your information is there, and it's more how to and how to save money and using this and doing the content yourself. So that's my next big project. I'm really looking forward to it.
Cool. We're going to tag David in the comments. If anybody wants to get a hold of him, you can just simply press on it. It'll go straight to his business page. Thanks, guys, for tuning in. We appreciate it. We're going to have much more of these lunch and learns. Hope to talk to you guys soon.
Yay!
I can turn it off.
I was gonna say I didn't press it. I was gonna
Mark's like, I can turn it off.
Slowly.